I am Kate King, and I am just wrapping up this beautiful interview healers series with a bit of a conversation with myself. So I thought there would be some value in talking to you today about the topic that seems to weave into pretty much everything I do. Even before I had the words to explain what this was, I think I was striving and trying to live this way for most of my life. And now I understand that the word that most captures how I want to show up in my life and the way that I encourage other people to show up when they're with me is authenticity. There's a few definitions for authenticity that I would like to share with you today, just to give you a little ballpark. So the first is from Brené Brown, who, if you know me, you know I get a lot of inspiration, motivation, and courage from Brené Brown's work. So here's some of her definition of authenticity. Brené Brown says, authenticity is the choice to let our true selves be seen. Authenticity is letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. So I recommend Brené Brown's work. If you haven't discovered it already, she has many incredible books, The Gifts of Imperfection, Daring Greatly, and many more. I believe she's also working on a new book as we speak, so we have that to look forward to. Another definition I'd like to give you comes from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Being true to one's own personality, spirit, or character, not false or imitation. And the Cambridge Dictionary definition is the quality of being real or true. I share with you just a couple definitions of authenticity to let you know that basically this is a concept that we have been trying to grasp and define and share over time. And so I felt it was only right to create my own definition because this is such a pillar of the work I do and the way I live. So this is the best definition that I could come up with from my own studies and my own sort of inquisitive nature. Authenticity is taking ownership of who you are to the very best of your knowledge and existing within your life, behaviors, and relationships in coherence with that essence of self. An authentic self reserves the right to change, pivot, and upgrade as a person comes into deeper learning about their true essence over time. True authenticity allows space for the natural qualities of growth and change within a person as they progress through their life. So that's the best definition that I could come up with, and I hope that it resonates with you. I also wanted to share some of the key qualities that I believe are integrated within authentic living and authenticity as a way of life. So for me, as I was considering what are these components, there are three main components for me: embodiment, integrity, and courage. So I'm going to talk about each of those briefly and kind of just loop you into why I feel like they help with authentic living. Embodiment essentially is living inside of your body in a sensory way where you feel and experience your life from a place where you're sensing inwardly. You're not just perceiving it or thinking about it, but you're actually sensing into your life. So when something feels good, you can feel it. You don't just think it feels good, but there might be a lightness or a tingling sensation in your chest. You might notice the pull of a smile on your face, or a sense of levity where you feel lighter and more buoyant. So this is an example of how we can sense in. So embodiment is really important to have authenticity, because if you're not in your body, if you're dissociated, if you're distracted, if you're leaving your energy and perhaps merging with someone else's energy, thinking about what they want from you or what the world sees about you, then you're not living from a perspective of your true essence. And in my opinion, the most effective way to be in touch with your truest essence is to be embodied. And take it from me, it took me years and years, probably decades, to really understand what embodiment is. And I know I still have some work to do on that because it's easy to eject and leave your physical body, take space in the mind, and sort of forget that we have a physical body that can inform us and give us information about ourselves. So, this is a living practice for me as well. Embodiment is something that takes time and repetition and practice. So, be gentle with yourself as you're sort of living in your body and learning how to not abandon yourself in that way. The second piece, integrity. A huge aspect of authentic living is related to integrity. So, integrity is bigger than just being honest. Integrity is about living with alignment and coherence with what actually feels like it's true for you in your life, in your highest good. So, authentic living means that sometimes you have to say no. Boundaries are important. You get to have opinions or desires or beliefs that might be outside the realm of what is socially acceptable or what feels popular or common in your circles. So, a really amazing book that's related to integrity that I love so much is this one right here. And I could not recommend it highly enough for you to just sort of dig in and learn more about how to live with integrity. And through that, living with integrity, how to access that authenticity within yourself, really understanding who you are and what feels most aligned for you in your life, which doesn't have to make sense to anyone outside of yourself. This includes being honest with yourself and others in whatever communications you share, in sort of lifting the veil from your own secrets, your own belief systems, and not hiding from your own truth. So, honest communication and honest living is a huge aspect of living with integrity. There's a piece here too I want to mention that has to do with people pleasing and sort of following social cues and social etiquette. Sometimes fitting in and belonging feels like it's more important than standing on our own 2 feet and being honest with ourselves when something doesn't feel right. But this kind of authentic living supports having that integrity to stand apart from the norm and to really start to understand what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what fills you up and brings you peace. And then living in coherence, which means actually honoring those longings and those belief systems and those ways of life so that you can live in that high integrity place and access authenticity with everything you do. So now I'll talk about the third aspect of authenticity, which is courage. It takes courage to be honest with ourselves, to live with integrity, to be embodied, to live authentically. So, cultivating and really resourcing for yourself so that you can remind yourself it's okay to feel afraid. It's okay if it feels risky, especially in the beginning when you're starting to build an authentic life. Sometimes you need to weed out some of the people or the behaviors or the practices that are not authentic to your true essence. And this takes courage. So it's important to just encourage yourself from a true self place of encouraging yourself to be brave and reminding yourself that you're doing this for a reason, right? You're jumping over these difficult barriers, you're exploring new territory, not just for the giggles involved, but really because you care about this and it has meaning for you in your life to be authentic. So I have a little kind of mantra that I say to myself when I feel like I'm on this precipice of wanting to live authentically, knowing that maybe I need to realign or pivot myself in order to access that authenticity. I simply say to myself, be brave, Kate. Just be brave. And that helps me. I know it sounds really simple, but truly just reminding myself to be brave and have courage, sometimes that's all I need to be able to really make the choices and execute the actions that are aligned and coherent with me so I can access my most authentic self and live life from that place. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what some of the barriers to authenticity are. These are the things that might stand between us and our authentic essence or living life with the spirit of authenticity. The biggest one, and maybe this might even be the umbrella for all the others, is self abandonment. So, self abandonment is when basically you give up what it is that you want or need, and you extend your energy beyond yourself and you meet the needs of others, or you do what you think you should be doing or what society tells you is right, but you're essentially ignoring what feels right for you. So, self abandonment happens for many reasons. I think a really big one is people pleasing and looking outside of yourself for belonging and validation, acceptance from others. So, a big aspect of self abandonment is when we feel that there's something that feels authentic to us, but it's not okay in our family of origin, in our group of friends. It might not be okay at our workplace. And so we sort of smother that aspect of us that's trying to show itself. And in so doing, we end up sort of cutting ourselves off at the knees and not giving ourselves that authentic experience. So we give the people around us what they need, but it doesn't come free of charge. It comes at the cost of our own integrity and our own authentic living. And if you're sensing into that embodied place, you'll know when you're doing this because you'll feel a tension inside or a heaviness or a sense of conflict within yourself. Normally, for me, there's sort of like a pit in the stomach that I feel when I am saying yes to something that I really want to say no to, or when I feel like I'm behaving in kind with how I'm expected to behave, but maybe not how I really want to or need to be behaving in that moment. So when I listen to my body and I feel that tension in my stomach, or I feel sort of a dread washing through my body, that's how I know that I am not being authentic in that moment. And so then I get to encourage myself to come back and to do the practices that we'll talk about later about how to access authenticity. Another reason why we sometimes abandon ourselves is because of really deep beliefs, inner core beliefs, like narratives that have guided us since maybe before we can even remember. Narratives like, if I'm not a good girl, then I'm not going to belong. So I have to always say yes and always be proper and have a smile so that I can have the love I need. So, we all have some of these core beliefs and these core narratives that have been with us for a long time. There might be something here related to your work ethic and your inability to keep a healthy work life balance. Maybe about if I don't work myself into the ground, then I'm never going to have enough. It's a scarcity fear. So, really acknowledging these beliefs can be an important way to sort of enter into why we're not being authentic in our lives, because a lack of authenticity, it doesn't stand alone, right? There's always reasons for why we do the things we do. And I allude to a lot of this in my videos about parts work with internal family systems. So definitely check those videos out so that you can learn more about the different parts of us and how they function ultimately to support and protect us. But it's important when we're working with these different parts of us that either are attached to scarcity or are attached to these old beliefs, that we understand that we don't necessarily have to be in those old belief systems if they don't apply anymore. And so giving ourselves the choice in the moment to reconstruct and realign ourselves with something that might feel better for us, that can bring us closer to that authentic living. And weaving in the embodiment, the integrity, and the practices of courage can help you come into better attunement with what your beliefs actually are, not the narratives that you used to believe. Now, another thing that can really be a barrier between living authentically is really deep emotions like fear or shame, among many others. These are just a couple, but most of us are guided by fear. And there are actually biological reasons for this. Mother Nature wired us to have fear to keep us safe and to keep us away from things that felt dangerous. So, in our lives now, with our developed prefrontal cortex and the amazing, strong, and resilient brain we have, we can actually look at our own emotions from sort of a witness place, and we can notice if we're being guided by fear. And rather than answering fear and living your life based on avoiding that thing you're afraid of, this practice of authentic living invites you to soften into your fear, or notice that deep shame, or notice that guilt, or whatever those dark emotions are, and spend time with them so that you can start to deconstruct why they are there and understand that perhaps they too connect back to these old narratives or core beliefs that may or may not even apply anymore and have been creating a significant barrier between you and your most authentic life. Now that we've talked about the barriers between you and your authentic life, I would now like to talk about how to access real authenticity in your life. So, for me, one of the easiest accesses for authenticity was taught to me by some really incredible guides, Amy Babish and Miyuki Yamamoto, and they taught me how to reference into my body from that embodied state and to feel somatically and notice true yes and true no. So, a really big aspect of authenticity is listening to your true yes and your true no. And what I mean by this is not the yes or the no that you think you should be saying or that other people expect from you or that you see in the world around you. True yes or true no are answers that come from within your body and inform you about how something feels for you in your own life, in your specific circumstances, with no reference to what anybody wants or thinks you need for you, for your sake. This is only between you and yourself. So, the way that I practice this, in the beginning, it's easy to do this with something really simple. So, say you're going out for ice cream and you're not sure exactly what flavor you want. Close your eyes and give yourself a imaginary experience of chocolate ice cream. And imagine yourself smelling it, feeling the coldness of it, feeling the texture of it in your mouth as you take a bite of your chocolate ice cream, and notice what happens in your body. Notice if there's a sense of excitement or maybe a flash of light or tingles. See if you can feel true yes. And you might feel true no when you imagine chocolate ice cream. You might feel sort of a heaviness or an icky feeling somewhere in your body. You might notice goosebumps that don't feel positive. So that might be a true no for you. So getting used to what your body says when it's saying true yes or true no can help guide you in a larger spectrum with authenticity as well. So that when it's time to make big decisions, do I want to have a child or not? Do I want to end my marriage or not? Do I want to leave my work, my career or not? You already know what true yes and what true no feel like. And you can be honest with yourself when you ask yourself these questions and you hear these responses coming through from the body. Another really amazing way to work with authenticity and cultivate more authenticity in your life is to start to move closer to the different layers of you. Healing happens in layers, and self-awareness and self-experience happens in layers. So whether you're using IFS parts work, whether you're doing any other kind of self-inquiry, you'll notice that sort of like an onion, there are layers to you. So as you get to know your layers, your authentic life might need to shift a little bit because as you learn more about yourself, you will be exposed to aspects of you that have not been honest along the way. Perhaps you've been showing up in society or people pleasing or being who you're expected to be without really understanding that's what was happening. And as you move through the layers of your self-knowledge, you get a sense like, oh, okay, I'm doing that because I'm supposed to, not because it's my true essence or because I truly want to. So moving closer to your layers, not being afraid of the different aspects of yourself that might have been hidden or might have been in shadow. And this is an aspect of bringing courage and bravery into your authenticity work so that you can really look at yourself and see who you are and see where you've come from and how you've become this person you are, and then make authentic choices from that space. Another really excellent way to work on authenticity in your life is practicing taking accountability, practicing boundaries, practicing ownership. All of these practices allow you to take ownership for what is yours in your life, whether they are your issues or your boundaries or your needs. Taking ownership for what is yours in your life and freeing other people from shame or guilt or blame for not taking care of you in the way you needed, or not showing up, or not being who you wanted them to be. Releasing all of that and just returning to who you actually are in the moment and what you can be accountable for. Perhaps a relationship has felt misaligned for you and you've been harboring some resentment in that relationship toward the other person. Accountability in that situation would be first accessing honesty with yourself that this relationship is out of alignment for you. Potentially setting some boundaries so that you can feel like your energetic space is being respected and being protected. And there might be some aspects of accountability here for you too. Maybe you haven't been honest in this relationship about what feels good for you or about what your needs are. So these practices are really valuable, not only in creating healthy relationships, but also making decisions informed by your authenticity rather than who you feel you are supposed to be. Now, lastly, I think that a mindfulness in the very present moment that you're in is extremely important for authentic living, because now is all we have. Time is constructed of now after now after now. And if you can be authentic one moment at a time by being embodied, by living with integrity, by living with courage, and practicing some of these exercises I shared earlier, then it will be like a string of Christmas lights where one authentic moment connects to another authentic moment and another authentic moment and another authentic moment. And before you know it, you have a string of authentic moments that come together to create an authentic life. So remember that your life is composed of moments that all happen in the now. And all you can do in any given moment is access your highest integrity, your highest authenticity in the now. After time, this becomes that string of lights, and you will be living an authentic life. So I knew that authenticity was important to me a long time ago, and I think that my first real kind of grasp of that word, authentic, came through to me when I was writing my book, The Authentic Mother. This was about 8 years ago when my first child was born, and I noticed that I was having an authentic experience of motherhood that was really incongruent with the experiences that had been surrounding me, that people talked about. Everybody, would say, "Isn't it great? Aren't you loving it?" And in my experience, authentically, I thought it was really hard, and I really struggled in the beginning, learning how to be a mom, learning how to stretch my life around my new baby and make room. So I created this book to support other people in finding their own authenticity in motherhood. And now I'd like to just continue my work of authenticity by encouraging you to be authentic, not just in motherhood, not just in your workplace, not just in your relationships with others, your relationship with yourself, but in your life at large. And see if you can release some of the pressure to be who you think you're supposed to be or who others have told you you're supposed to be. And see if you can really connect to who you actually are in your truest essence in this moment. And I think it'll feel really different. So thank you so much for being with me for my Healers interview series. And with this video, I now end this amazing panel of speakers, and I feel incredibly blessed and honored to have had the valuable conversations that I had with these amazing healers and human beings. So thank you so much for being with me, for joining me on this journey, and stay tuned. I've got some more really great stuff in store for you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time. All right, take care.